Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
We need to go on.
Pardon me?
We'll stay after the meeting, see if we sign these.
Okay. Are we all here now? We go back to item 3.
Mr. Chair, on the filing deadline, Debbie Walsh had made a public records request for copies of all of the Coghlan petitions. I don't know if those petitions left and went with Debbie, but there are also copies of Coghlan petitions here, which I know Brian and Gary and other people had worked off of checking the Coghlan petitions. Prior to the filing deadline, Brian and I had an email exchange, which you were all copied on, where we were trying to get this straight with how we would evaluate them. I said that across the board, everything should be evaluated the same. Brian, in his email, said that if the initial opposite party review determines the petition has sufficient signatures, there is no need to spend more time with the same party review. For the central committee petition, he says it's safe to assume that all petitions will require a review of the opposite and the same party. And I expected that. I didn't expect the good valid petitions to be singled out as having a second pass by the Republicans, because the Democrats would check them first. But I had been told that only the good petitions were pulled out, and a team of Hank Barkas, Megan, Dennis, instructed by Gary and Amanda, were put in the computer room where we were doing all the checks, pushed all the way over to the windows, and told that they had a special project. And that Amanda told them to start with the petitions that had only 5 signatures and see what you can do. Now, why would you not check the invalid petitions? Why would you only go after the ballots?
And these ballots that were checked were only the, as we're saying, the Coghlan petition. They didn't check any other Republican ballot petitions.
That's correct, and I asked Brian and I asked Gary, I said, are you only checking the Coghlan petitions? And they said yes. And I just don't believe that that's fair to treat candidate petitions and other petitions one way and the Coghlan petitions another.
These were the copied petitions that were being checked?
They were copied, but then they also had the originals.
Debbie Walsh made a public records request for the Coghlan petitions on behalf of herself. She's employed by the Summit County Republican Party.
Yeah.
Did she do it on behalf of the Summit County Republican Party?
I don't know. She talked to Brian, but I overheard her ask for them.
How did she make that?
I don't know who she was requesting them for. She ended up getting a CD instead.
And then those,
And where did the copies come from?
those copies,
I don't think she picked up her copies.
So you kept the copies.
They were here. Billing and I worked off of them, yes.
so she made a public records request. You kept the copies and worked off of them.
I didn't keep the copies, but I worked on them on Sunday.
So Mary Jane,
Why would you do that?
Let's back up, because there's some key facts here that are understood. First of all, it's important to understand that we had about 10 part-timers from each party, and then a couple of full-timers from each party that are filing the petition. On the Democratic side, Mary Jean's right, let's back up even one step further. Mary Jean did send me an email to which I agreed to, saying that each party would review all petitions regardless of who the filing source was. So Democrats would review all Democrat petitions once, Republicans would review all Republican petitions once, regardless of the filing source. And we agreed on that, and she cited my response that said that as well. She also cited a section that said, in the essence of time, some of these candidate petitions probably wouldn't need to have the same party reviews twice. Then filing day came, and Democrat all-in candidate and PC petitions filed somewhere a little over 200 candidate petitions. Republicans over 600. But we had equal numbers of staff reviewing them. Obviously, 15 people, or 12 to 15 people will finish 200 petitions faster than 12 to 15 people will finish 600. So the Republicans finished the Democrat review first. They then, not me, but the staff people on staff, Gary and Dave, assigned Republicans who were extra. There wasn't work for them to do, to start filing petitions. They reserved the people who were the most efficient at reviewing petitions to review petitions. The slower people on the computer were given some filing work to do until such time as there were petitions available. We didn't want to send them home. That part got left out of the equation, that the Democrats couldn't keep up. They couldn't pump out the first party review fast enough to keep the 12 to 15 Republicans that were here on Saturday and Sunday busy. So these guys found necessary work for them to do.
But you called in extra Republicans.
While they were working.
You
Pardon
called
me?
in extra Republicans.
Only to match the number of full-time Democrats that were here, yes.
But you just said that the number of Democrats couldn't keep up with all the Republican petitions, so wouldn't it be natural that the Democrats would have a few more people, because you had 600 Republican petitions and 240?
I was working on the historical function of parity for part-time staff and weekend staff, and they were being kept busy. I was the one on
Wasn't a
Friday.
need for parity when you're doing that.
Well, regardless of that issue, they kept busy, and actually the full-timers went home. Several of them went home or didn't come in anyway. But so at any rate, the Republicans looked at the petitions one time. Are there petitions that the Republicans didn't look at, the Republican verifiers didn't look at? Yes. But it's also important to remember, which was not stated by Mayor Jean, that over 400 of the Republican petitions were pre-checked prior to the filing deadline. They were pre-checked. And so those already went through by the same party process review, because they were pre-checked. They were in the computers pre-checked. So when they were actually filed on Tuesday before the filing deadline and put into the computer, when you call that petition up, you already saw the verification. So those really didn't require, not all of the, what you want to call, I don't know, party petitions required a second look.
Well,
And in the essence of time.
let me just interrupt before I lose the point. First you said that you had over 600 to look at, and now you're saying 400 of them you didn't really need to look at. So
I'm saying that there was over 600 filed, and that there was a number that it probably, I don't know for sure, I can't tell you exactly how many, because I wasn't on the floor doing the work, but of the
you were in your
600
office
plus.
looking at the Coghlan petition.
What's that?
You were in your office looking.
Those were never pre-checked, and there was about 75 or 80 of the Republican ones that were filed with the party, and then the candidate petitions as well, that were never pre-checked.
But the Democrats had checked them, and you only were checking the good ones.
No, the other way around, checking the bad ones.
No.
What I was in my office doing, which was covering for your absence, was I was
You were
going
covering for
through.
my absence because I wasn't required to be here on Saturday and Sunday to.
Had you
I
been
did
here, we
not
would have
need-
been.
I did not need to be here because they were handling it, and we were planning on doing this on Monday, Brian. We had set this on Friday, that Gary and Dave were overseeing it, Sandy and Nancy were here. We never talked about coming in on Sunday to do this.
Right.
So don't try to make something up.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay.
What I'm going to tell you now is that what I was doing on Saturday and Sunday was going through bad petitions for my own satisfaction, to expedite the part of the process where you and I have to review, just also so that the board is fully aware. The staff reviews the petitions. They get to something that is something less than perfect, and they put it in a file. If it's because they're clearly too few signatures, this time they put them in a bad folder. And if there's some sort of process review, they put them in a questionable folder. But typically, they go into a less than perfect review, and they get sent to the director and deputy director for us to look at. Typically, we're able to agree on whether it's a valid or invalid petition. There are over 800 petitions that were filed in this particular process, in this particular filing deadline. Of the over 800, I'm going to guess now, probably 50 to 60 of them were less than perfect. That's Democrat and Republican candidate and PC petitions, were something less than perfect. So what I did was I said, I'd like to go through those, but I didn't want to handle original petitions. So what I did was there was this stack of petitions that were photocopied.
But
So
why were they there?